Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. On today's episode of Commander Gameplay, we are back with a real table and 4 powerful decks. I will be joined by François, Guillaume, and Kelly. Frank will be playing Xyris, the Writhing Storm. This is a recent commander from Ikoria that makes snakes the more your opponent draws, and so the fastest way to achieve this is to wheel the table. Having the reward being in green, red, and blue, and creature base, the win conditions are very different than a regular grixis wheel deck. Speaking about grixis wheel deck, we have Guillaume piloting this Kess Dissident Mage. This deck used to be led by Nikusar, but being quite the magnet to removals, Guillaume decided to switch it up with a flashback commander. This is very strong because every wheel you get can be casted a second time from the graveyard, making the big turns very deadly. Kelly will be playing Kruphix, God of Horizon. This legendary god enchantment wants to ramp, draw, and cast big eldrazis creatures. This is one of the oldest deck Kelly has, and the last few tweaks we did really pushed his tempo game in the right direction. Finally, I will be playing Team Smash, Vial Smasher and Bruse Star. This is an adaptation of my Kaalia of the Vast deck that seeks to cast my demons, angels, and dragons instead of cheating them into play. With the release of Commander Legend, I'm considering switching from Bruse to Tymna, as Bruse can be a bit clunky at times, but Bruse has one of the best intro on the channel, so it's a tough call. My opening hand contains Gisela the Broken Blade, Archfiend of Despair, Blasphemous Act, Talisman of Indulgence, Path of Ancestry, Sacred Foundry, and an exotic Orchard. It's an okay hand. I wish I had a way to draw cards, but having 2 commanders I will be able to scry twice from the Path of Ancestry, which is similar to a draw. 2 mana ramp and a reset button with Blast Sack. It's playable. Kelly's opening hand contains Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, Wilderness Reclamation, Zendikar Resurgent, Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, Simic, Growth Chamber, Command Tower, and a basic forest. A very solid hand for Kelly. Selvala is a powerhouse in any deck she's run, and the Wilderness Reclamation with Kruphix being able to store the excess mana is basically a mana doubler for the next turn. She only needs to draw 1 or 2 creatures to drop, and this will be great. Guillaume's opening hand contains Wheel and Deal, Thought Vessel, Soul Ring, Evolving Wild, and a basic of each color. Any hand that can Soul Ring into another mana rock will take the table by surprise. He has a lot of colors as well. If only the Wheel and Deal was able to draw him a fresh new 7, this would have been a perfect hand. I guess it still draws a card and it can mess up with our starting hand. It's worth a try. Frank's opening hand contains Jace Archivist, Consecrated Sphinx, Blasphemous Act, Growing Rites of Itlimoc, Reavia Coast, Reliquary Tower, and a basic island. Holding his pet card Blasphemous Act, this hand feels very solid. Nothing too out of the ordinary speed-wise, but the Archivist being able to wheel every turn can be deadly for us real quick. Guillaume gets to start this match, and land drops an Evolving Wild, cracking it for a basic swamp, passing under the radar for now. Kelly land drops a forest, I land drop a Path of Ancestry, and François land drops a Reliquary Tower. Guillaume land drops an island and unleash the bomb. He casts Soul Ring, then Thought Vessel, and follow it up with Izzet Sing It. Kelly land drops a Command Tower, and I land drop a Sacred Foundry untapped. I cast a Talisman of Indulgence. Frank land drops a Temple of Mystery, scrying 1. Guillaume land drops a mountain and pass? We laugh about the idea of a turn 3 Cyclonic Rift. Kelly land drops an island, and casts Selvala, Heart of the Wild. I land drop a Clifftop Retreat, and cast Rakdos Sing It. I then cast my commander, Vial Smasher the Fierce.
Watch out, watch out!
I scry 1 from my Path of Ancestry, bottoming it. Frank land drops an island, and casts Chromatic Lantern. Guillaume untaps a whole bunch of nothing, and land drops a swamp. He then casts Fell Spectre. Entering the battlefield, Frank discards a card, losing 2 life. He then casts Wheel and Deal, targeting all 3 opponents. We wheel our hand, taking 12, 12, and 10 from the Spectre, and Guillaume draws a card. In the process, Kelly discards Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, and shuffles her graveyard into her deck. Kelly then untaps and land drops a Myriad Landscape. She casts Kodoma's Reach and pass. I cast Queen Marchesa. Vial triggers for 4 at Guillaume, and I become the Monarch. I then drop from playing the biggest creature on board, and land drop an Isolated Chapel. Going to combat, I send Vial to Kelly and Marchesa to Guillaume. I draw at the end step. Franklin drops a forest and casts his commander, Xyris, the Writhing Storm.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on my motherfucking airship!
Guillaume then drops an island and brings forth his own commander, Kess, the Sedent Mage.
Loss has no meaning here. You cannot take from those who have nothing.
He uses her ability to cast Wheel and Deal from his graveyard, targeting all 3 opponents once again and losing us 14 life each. This time, however, Frank creates 15 snakes. Kelly then drops Interland Arbor and casts Priest of Titania. She then casts Surak, the Hunt Caller, and draws from Selvala. I then drop a Command Tower and cast Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. Vial triggers for 5 at Guillaume. Frank jokingly asks if I want a ton of Augur from his snakes attacking me. I follow it up with Bastion Protector, scrying 1 from my land. I go to combat again and send Vial to Guillaume. I draw at my end step from Monarch. Frank then drops an exotic Archer. He then goes into combat and sends 14 snakes and Xyris to Guillaume. Xyris trigger to make them draw 3 cards, and then create 3 snakes. In second main, he casts Soul Ring, and then the very problematic Goblin Bombardment, which he can now use to take out anybody at instant speed. He uses the bombardment to destroy the Fell Spectre. He then casts Sword of War and Peace, and equip it to Xyris, passing the turn. Guillaume then drops a Swamp and casts Waste Knot. He transmutes Perplex to fetch a 3 CMC spell, which is Windfall. He casts Gutter Snipe and pass. Kelly then drops Flooded Grove and casts Kiora, Behemoth Beaconer. She -1 Kiora to untap Selvala. She was about to cast Finally of Revelation, but changed her mind thinking about the snakes. She cast It That Betrays, and draws 2 from Selvala and Kiora. This gives Franks 2 snakes token. She headed to combat, Surak triggers and grants haste to the Eldrazi. It That Betrays goes to Frank, and he sacrificed 2 snakes to annihilate her before blocking the Eldrazi with a single Brave Snake. At the end step, Frank takes me out of the game with Bombardment. He untaps and goes straight into combat. Xyris head to Kelly for 5. The sword and the commander trigger. Kelly is taken out of the game, and Frank makes 5 snakes token before gaining some life. He then sacrificed enough snakes to take Guillaume out of the game and grab the win for today's episode. Looking back at this game, this was a very fast and aggressive match. Guillaume did a ton of damage to his opponents, but couldn't remove Xyris before it became a problem. If Wheel and Deal was a full table wheel, I think he had a chance to close this out. Xyris is a very explosive deck. The snake generation is very easy to achieve and will take over the table really quickly. I think the ending was really interesting because Goblin Bombardment can only target 1 opponent at a time, and this meant that if somebody were to die before my turn, Frank would not have enough snakes to take me down. It's a really tricky situation. I've been under the barrel multiple times when our play group used to play Aetherflux Reservoir more. In a similar situation, the player is at 60 life and cannot take out the whole table, but if everybody plays in a way to not anger the player holding the table hostage, he is sure to win. Is it king making to sacrifice yourself so that the table has a chance to win, or is it king making to not attack him and then he wins because nobody took actions? Tell me in the comment how you would handle such a situation. There's an alternative turn for Kelly I noticed while editing. She could have cast her Final of Revelation, drawing a bunch of cards, and if she drew her Cross Grip, take out the Bombardment while Xyris' new trigger were still on the stack. It would have been very risky play, but considering the other plan did not do anything to stop Frank, could have been worth a shot. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I would like to thank our Patreons for supporting the channel, and if you're not subscribed, please consider joining the House of Pricey Cardboard. It does not cost you anything and it helps us a lot. See you soon and take care.
Bombardment!